So when I started farming, I said, me, I'll make money from farming. And people that were in farming told me you are lying. But I did not believe in them. I said, no, that is you. So if you have failed, I cannot inherit your failure like a name. So if you failed, that is you. Me, I'm going to make money. And then what I said is, see, I have seen people that make money in farming, but I don't know how. If they have made it, it is also very clear that I can make it. Then I have to find out how. So what I did is, before I started farming, I learned business. So I associated myself with people that were running business. I've got no problem whether people believe in organic farming or they don't believe in it. I did not get into organic farming to convince people. I got into that space to live a healthy life. So it is something that I'm not doing for anyone. I'm doing it for myself. So even if people don't believe it, they don't like it, it doesn't bother me, but I'll keep on doing it because it's working for me. If people will eat whatsoever, I have got no, as long as me, I'm safe. Those that want to join me, they are welcome. Those that don't believe, I will not struggle convincing people, crying that people don't believe this. That's not my problem because I've seen it works. So when the soil is acidic, it's like someone who has got diarrhea. It cannot hold nutrients. When you put the nutrients, they just run off. When the soil is alkaline, it is just like the soil has got constipation. It locks up the nutrients. It's where you eat and the food is not digested.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Organic Guy podcast. This is your home of organic conversations. I'm your host, the Organic Guy, and right around here we have conversations on how we can make our food systems really get to work for us rather than against us. And in this episode, we are going all the way to Zambia, where we'll be meeting Abel Hangoma, better known as the Radical Farmer, who ironically is a computer engineer and turned into an award-winning organic farmer, entrepreneur, and an advocate for sustainable food systems. Through his work and his farm, Organic Farm7, Abel is inspiring a new generation of Africans to see farming not just as a last resort, as most of us in the African context see it, but more of as a bold and a modern, meaningful pursuit. Abel, thank you very much for making time for the podcast and welcome.
Thank you so much, and I'm so delighted to be actually part of this organic conversation.
I mean, I've seen the amazing work you are doing at your farm, Organic Farm7, and I have a lot of questions in that regard. But before we get to that, for someone who doesn't have a really good idea about Zambia, just help paint a picture for us, like how was life for you growing up in Zambia, and how is life in Zambia in general?
Maybe before I even introduce myself, I'm so delighted to be part of this. I remember listening to one of your podcasts and I loved it because there was a lot of authenticity and reality. And, I remember the lady that you were interviewing, she was speaking facts. Okay, and you can't just ignore the facts that she was speaking if you are a sober-minded person. And being part of this is very exciting. Like, as I speak right now, I'm on site. We are working on something better than what we've done at Organic Farm7. So I've just put off an overalls, a wetsuit, and rushed into a space where I could have access to internet, and so that I can just, share with you what we are doing. So greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk to Kenyans, and I love Kenya so much. So I'll be coming month, and that will be my third time in Kenya. I have put on the Maasai outfit. I felt like I could be a lion. Okay, so yeah. So about my background and who I am. So I grew up from a farm setup. So in our family we are 11, and I'm the third born. And we used to do traditional agriculture where you grow maize, you put fertilizer. But before that, in the 90s, we didn't used to put fertilizer. We just used to put manure. We started putting, fertilizer around 2000, but would mix fertilizer just a little, but more of manure And by then, I think I was around 12 years, 15 years. We used to get manure and put in the field every after 2 years. And, would harvest something despite not even putting fertilizer. So I grew up from an agricultural background. So it was very tough. I remember our mother, would wake us up as early as 5. So we didn't even have a watch at home. But the standard at home was, so my mother did not finish school, but her thinking is by far better than most people that have even gone to school, because for me, education is not only gotten from a classroom. So my mother put up a rule. She says, you see, the sun should not find you on the bed. Then the sun should not set when you're at someone's place. Then she says, a man should not, when the crow crows, it is an indication that you have to wake up. Okay, and she led by example, where I should wake up very early, and she has always been hardworking, and even up to now, she's very hardworking. She's in her 50s, but she's not a burden. She takes care of herself, and as we support her, she's very productive. So for me, the radical farmer you see here is not someone who was made when I was, old. It's someone who was made when I was young. And I remember very well my mother telling me that I'm going to be rich because there's a bird that I killed, and that was a layer bird. And they said, no, when you kill this bird, you don't just cook it alone. You have to kill a chicken and cook it with a chicken. And they would stretch your hands and tell you're going to be rich because you've done something that could not be done. I was a hunter. So I would hunt, I would catch birds, I would catch different animals. And actually I would catch birds live. I would run those quails, those which eat maize. As they fly, I would run on the ground. And when it lands, it would just take a few seconds. I also ran, and I had this dog which could smell wherever it goes, and I would catch them live. So that is the kind of setup that we grew up. And when I look back, I think, my background is very interesting. You talk about business. I started doing business when I was, maybe around 10 years. We would catch rats. We didn't used to eat them, but we would catch them and sell them. So we would go and dig rats. So our home life is a life where we were taught to be responsible, to be respectful, but at the same time also we were taught to sustain ourselves with the little that we had, and to cooperate with our parents. So that is my background. And then I went to school, passed my grade 9. Then I was supposed to go to high school, but since we come from a poor background, like, relatives don't want to associate with poor people, those that are doing very well. So that would deter you. And now I had nowhere to go to stay to do my high school. So my father found a place, I was 15, where I could rent. Now that was very risky. It is in a place that I don't know, and I have to be out of home for 3 months. I had to cook for myself, I had to manage myself and everything. But one value that our father actually inculcated in us, in those days it would take, where the nearest church was, it was about 10 kilometers. So my father would get the 3 of us, 2 behind, then 1 in front where you sit on a bicycle, and you would ride the bicycle 10 kilometers to take us to church. So that inculcated in us the value of, the fear of God in us. So that really helped me when I went to school. I could only go to 3 places. He said, if you don't find me home, I'm at church or I'm at school. Then during weekends, for upkeep, I would do, some pieceworks to buy relish and everything. So I would get meal from home. Then they would give me money to buy relish. And it wasn't a lot of money. So I had to figure out, how am I going to survive these 3 months? And there was no money for the luxury of going back and forth home and all those things. I didn't even have a phone. When I want to take to my parents, I have to borrow a phone and, call them. So that's how I did my high school, and I passed. Now, when the time came to go to school, I wanted to study agriculture. I went at NRDC, that is, the agriculture school in Zambia. But what happened is there wasn't space at school. Then I opted to go and study journalism because what happened is my parents could not afford to sponsor me to go to college. So I started photographing. I was a photographer for a period of, 3 years. So I figured out that, there's money in photography. And I don't know how it is in Kenya, but in Zambia, photographers, they say, no, these people are for girls and all those things. So now what I did is I figured out there was money in photography. And that is when I just completed school. I was around 18 years. So I started with someone's camera and a borrowed bicycle. I started taking pictures until I managed to buy my own camera. I managed to buy, have my own bicycle. And by then, I managed to buy my own computer. And since we didn't have electricity at home, I had to find somewhere to put the computer. I have my studio somewhere where I was doing editing videos, pictures, where, you capture someone, you capture a portrait of someone, you get their head and put it on the soldier. And those days it was hot. Like when people didn't, married in a wedding, you'd get their heads and put the head on someone who had the wedding and everything. So I made a lot of money through that, but I realized this thing is giving me money. And that money, I didn't even have a bank account, so I went to the bank, opened an account, and I started saving. You can imagine I saved for 2 years without going anywhere. Then when I wanted to go to school, I went to school, paid for the whole year, and then started saving for the next year. And that's how I sponsored myself to study, computer engineering. And you may be interested to know how I managed to get into school. So my grade 12 results were not the best. So when I applied the first time, they rejected me because they were better guys. But when I went to check for my name, I asked them, why wasn't I picked? They said, no, there are people that had better results than you. But I insisted, now what can I do since you have not accepted me and I want to be in school? They said, you can apply as a chancer because there are some people that apply, they're accepted and they don't come. So I had to apply for the second time. And the second time I was picked within a week. And that's how I started doing school, going to school. I intentionally wanted to do journalism, but I found out that, the journalism course was full. So they told me there are these other free courses, and the course that was attractive was computer engineering. I didn't want to do it, but it was the only thing because, I cannot go back home and say, no, there are no courses. I couldn't wait another year. What am I going to tell my friends? I told them I'm going to school. So I had to pick this course, not really that I wanted to study it, but because, it was the course that was available, and I didn't want to, go back and do all those things. So that's how I sponsored myself to go to school. And, there are so many interesting stories. The very thing where you don't want to, relatives don't want to keep you. Then while I was in school, I was a chef for my friend. So I didn't have money to buy food. So what I would do is during lunch hour, I would collect money from well-to-do children, my classmates. Then they would buy food, then I would cook for them. And then that kept me going. Okay? Then eventually one of my friends saw that this is a good guy, and that's how he adopted me until I completed school, then, graduated with my, computer engineering.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting story. And it's good to see. I mean, we might be like worlds apart, but like how the African sort of family setup is pretty much the same, especially like, growing up in like an agricultural background and just helping out on the farm. So it's pretty much similar. Even here, if you just walk into the streets and ask someone, especially people on our age, in their late 20s and early 30s, they will probably tell you a very similar story. So that's really, really interesting. So you end up doing computer science, which, let's be honest, most of the people would say it's a lucrative sort of space for you to study. So how do you end up then becoming an organic farmer?
Here's the reality. Most of the courses that we do, we are not trained to work in Africa. We are trained to work outside Africa. And I've studied a little bit of history. If you look at resources, mostly the West, they are looking for resources in Africa to develop their countries. Like, I'll give an example. When I was studying computers, I did software engineering, hardware repair and maintenance. We did networking. But you find that most of the companies in Zambia, they only have maybe 2 computers, 5 computers. It's not practical to be hired to work as a computer engineer in a company that has got 5 computers. What are you going to be doing? Okay. I had started a software company, but the question is, how many companies, like in Zambian setup, it is even hard for a Zambian to buy something online because they don't trust things that are made by Zambians, especially in terms of software. There are very few Zambian companies that are using right now websites. We are a continent that uses the consumer mindset is just too high, even from the software point of view. You check in our governments who develop the software. What I realized is, yes, it is lucrative when you're in the right place. I remember very well the time that I was looking for employment. I used to walk from one office to the other looking for a job, but I couldn't find any. Then that made me realize that, you see, if you're going to survive in Africa, you need to understand the economy of the country that you are in. And I figured out that, you see, we're importing food, and there's a lot of demand. Then number 2, there are so many youths that are not interested in farming. And I understand why they are not interested, because there are no role models. There is nothing attractive, to point at in farming. I said, okay, I'm going to set an example, and I'm going to show the young people that, you see, there is a lot of opportunity. Like, I'll give an example. When I was doing backyard farming, where I was propagating seedlings from the backyard, and I was working as an IT person in one organization, I was from the backyard. I was making 8 times more money than what I was getting paid from my full-time job. That doesn't mean you can't find an IT-related job, but the fact is that most of the guys that we went to school with, I just know one who is doing very well in IT. The rest of us have gone to do different things. That doesn't mean that, IT is not relevant. What really helps me out, in the agricultural space is you need to, someone who did not study IT cannot push things at the level that I push them when I have these skills of IT. You see, you can acquire them. Like, most of the useful things that I learned is not what I was taught in class. It's what I was teaching myself outside class, like software development, digital marketing, video editing. Like, the useful skills, I learned them outside class. Okay? So it also has to, deal with the issue of, the system of education and how you follow it. Education is very important, but you should understand that actually there is more to education than just classroom. And actually, one of the things that I'll be sharing with my interns is learning how to learn. So I don't know how we even got here, but how a computer person got himself into agriculture is a realization of the reality that we need to deal with real things, not just things that we think this is how they should be, and we forget about reality. And this has really, once that mindset shift happened, like, my life is not the same, it will never be the same. And immediately we finished talking here, my life would have already changed. I'll be a different person even after this conversation, because I've realized the reality of the country and what we should be doing, but also not neglecting to understand the pace at which the world is moving.
Yes, even the way you are talking, I can see, like, you have your mindset is very different. It's not like for an average person that you can meet on the streets, and this comes from your the life that you've lived, right? So from how you were brought up, the kind of attributes that were installed in you, knowing and unknowingly, things you observed your parents doing, combine all those with sort of the formal education you have received is what has made you to be who you are. And something I found interesting about you is, like, the name that you choose to sort of represent who you are. So you call yourself the radical farmer. Why did you choose that name? And, from your work that you've done so far, what do you think you are doing radically different to what an average farmer in Zambia is doing?
You see, I don't think you can get extraordinary results when you're doing things the ordinary way. So for me, when I got into agriculture, from the onset, if you check on my YouTube channel, the very first video that I did, I said we're going to change things. This is not the right way to do things, and we need to change things. And sometimes when I reflect on those words, sometimes I think I didn't fully understand what I was talking about, but those words have unfolded as I said. So why radical? If we are going to get what we've never gotten before, we should be willing to do what we've never done before. The number two, if we approach something aggressively in a laissez-faire approach, we are not going to win. Okay? So looking at how agriculture is being done and how it is being preached, personally, I'm not happy with it, and I don't like it because there's one end where there's a group of people that are benefiting, and there's one end where we have a lot of people that are struggling. And like the whole scenario, it looks like, it is normal when it is, and we have normalized the abnormal part of it. So I say, no, this is not right. And why is it not right? Is because we have accepted the wrong thing, and we have accepted what we shouldn't, and that acceptation has been normalized, and it has been inculcated in the existing systems. Like, I'll give an example. Here in Zambia, I was taught at school that you cannot grow grapes, you cannot grow strawberries, you cannot grow garlic. And that was taught in school. But when I started on a journey of thinking different from what people think, I said, I need my version of life. If I'm going to believe, if I'm going to say this is true, I need to find out myself. I'll not believe what they tell me. I said, I need to find out myself. Let me have my own version of failure. If I'll be speaking, I'll not be reciting the facts of another man. I'm not going to be reflecting the thoughts of another man. I need to know for myself how it feels. And when I started doing that, I've just come to realize that there's a lot that we can do. But our mindset have been, limited, and they have been caged to think that everything that comes from wherever it comes from, is raw truth, which is not a fact. So in summary, the name comes from, the drive that we need to do things in a whole different way. And we have to be aggressive. We have to be progressive, and we have to be very determined. So it gives us the drive. We need to do things with power and force, because the energy that I have now, not have it when I get old. So I need to use this energy aright, so that when I get old, I'm an old guy, I look back, I should not regret that. I wish I could have done that. I want to exhaust all my energy. If it's dying, let me die on the front line.
Yes, definitely. That's how new things get done. That's how new discoveries get done, by pushing the boundaries, right? You can't stay on the average. It's quite interesting. So you say that what you're doing is really radical. So I'm just thinking on on a service level. What does the average farmer in Zambia look like? Like, in terms of what are they doing? What are they growing? What kind of things are they? What kind of growing methods are they practicing that makes your sort of what you're doing really radical?
For me, farming is two ways. You farm with your head and with your hands. So an average farmer in Zambia farms with hands. So why do I say farming with a hand and with a head is where you're farming, you think. You should engage your mind when you're doing farming, and you should also engage your hands when you're farming. So there are those that farm just with hands without engaging their mind. They keep on doing the same things. There's a certain book I read, it says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again while expecting different results. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again while expecting different results. People are hoping to get better results, but they're not changing anything. So that is farming with hands. Now, when there are those just farm with their heads, where you just think but you don't do, then, but the combination of two is very powerful, where you engage your mind and you engage your hands, then you see great results. So an average farmer in Zambia just farms with hands. Now, these are the people that will do whatsoever they are told without even thinking. You find that, they keep on doing the same things and they're being, promised that things will be better, but they are not engaging themselves. They are just like, a machine which you feed with information and it responds exactly like what you fed it. Like, for example, farmers, when they are told, you go and plant this seed, it is a good seed. But they don't look back to realize, didn't we plant this seed for the past 20 years? What has changed? What were we getting? What are we going to get different? And now, here, the people that actually give you the information, they understand your weakness and they hit you from a weakness point of view. But the point is, you as a farmer, you're not progressing. Okay? So in a nutshell, I haven't answered that question direct, but I think you get the context from what I'm talking, and that is just the reality that is on the ground.
Yeah. So it's more farmers have become comfortable to do what they have always been doing. So they are not willing to experiment.
And I'm glad that climate change is speaking. People will be forced to do the right thing, if they will. But I know, because, with what we are doing, where we are farming is the place where you can believe that there is absolutely nothing that could be done. But because of doing what is right, we are getting, even when people reach the farm, say, no, how possible is this? Because even myself, I ask myself a question, how possible is it to do what we are doing at a place like this?
Yeah, and I've seen the videos that you've put on Facebook especially. I see, like, if you compare your area and then you look at what's outside your farm, it's just completely two different environments. Your area is sort of thriving and the other side is sort of bare, like it's in a little bit of a desert. So that's quite interesting. So that leads me to asking, like, in terms of, like, let's get practical a little bit in terms of like what you're doing on the farm. So because globally, when you talk about regenerative or organic, like some of the things that come in mind is probably incorporating agroforestry or no-till or crop rotation. So on your farm, like, what kind of practices are you doing that are, sort of regenerating the soil and sort of improving the quality of your soil?
I wish you could see what I'm seeing as you ask me that question. But anyway, let me try to be visual as much as possible. So, how you regenerate the soil? There's absolutely no soil that cannot be built. There is only one way to build soil, and that is the organic way, the natural way. There is no chemical that can be used to build soil, because soil is a living organism. So it needs life to give it life. Okay? So for me, what has been working out very effectively is the use of cover crops. That is sun hemp, velvet beans, cowpeas, hair levatek, buckwheat, and sunflower. So these crops that I've mentioned, they can build any soil. So what they do is, one, they work on the soil pH. So when the soil is acidic, it's like someone who has got diarrhea. It cannot hold nutrients. When you put the nutrients, they just run off. Okay? When the soil is alkaline, it is just like the soil has got constipation. It locks up the nutrients. It's where you eat and the food is not digested. Not that the food is not there. Okay? Then when the soil is acidic, the nutrients, they leach. And when the nutrients leach, they leach to a level where most of the crops cannot reach the nutrients. But when you grow cover crops, what they do is they have deeper roots which go deep and they get the nutrients and bring them to the surface. And also, they release acids. The acidity determines the pH. So they release acids to stabilize the soil to a level that it can be able to produce. Then that also promotes life in the soil. You have earthworms, you have different creatures that actually come to benefit from the glucose which these plants make as they grow. And these plants, they can grow no matter how bad the soil is, no matter how stony the soil is. And the best time to plant them is around rain season when there's enough moisture, meaning they can be able to go deeper. Then secondly, there's a lot of nutrients during rain season, so they'll grow vigorously. And then when you cut them down, they decompose so quick. Then living organisms like earthworms, they love them so much. So you find that you would have drilled holes. One, you'd have solved the problem of soil erosion. Your soil is going to be less compact. Then you've injected organic matter. You've injected pores where earthworms can live and also feed. Okay? Then on the other end, you'd also have increased organic matter and biomass in the soil. So that means more moisture retention, which is good for the crops, and also good root development because the soil has been loosened and there are so many roots around. Then the other thing you can add is biodiversity. What I mean by this, growing different things. Like what we do when we are setting up an orchard, we don't cut trees because when you cut trees, you uproot all the roots you have destroyed before you start building. So what do you just stamp them and put your trees. So when you cut a tree, it releases growth hormones, which will benefit the nearby trees, but at the same time also it will shoot faster and go deeper to bring more nutrients. Okay? So when you established your orchard, what you just don't want is shade, but you leave a stamp. Okay? Because even when you read in the book of Daniel, God did not completely cut off Nebuchadnezzar, but he stamped him so that he can just get revived and get right. So the point is, we have been able to build that in a very hard place where there is high, evaporation. And you'll be very shocked to know that farm that you see, we water once a week. Then we've added herbs around, we've added lemongrass and also comfrey, which we cut and mulch to make sure that we retain moisture and we keep on building the soil. And if you have manure, even better. That really helps in actually building the soil because that is readily available nutrients.
This is a question I always ask a lot in terms of building the soil. So from your experience and some of the work you've done around building the soil, let's say a farmer has a really bad soil, a really highly degraded soil. How long do you think will it take them to make their soil productive again?
No, practically it depends with the state. So when it is loamy soil, mostly within, so that there's what I call quick fix. So if you want quick fix, you can grow cover crops and add manure. That one is just within 5 months, your soil becomes productive. But if it is more of sandy soil and maybe gravel soil, stony soil, within a year, 2, you'd have built. But mostly within an average of 3 years, you'd see a difference when the soil is very, very bad. Then the good part is, as the years go by, like when you reach your 4th year, your 5th year, you skyrocket, everything really becomes perfect. So the only challenge is most people that want to do organic farming, they are not consistent. Okay? So consistency is key. You need to be drenching with the liquid fertilizers, you need to be mulching. When you are consistent, the space is also even shortened. But the good part is once you fix that, it is done. Like me, I've got no problem whether people believe in organic farming or they don't believe in it. I did not get into organic farming to convince people. I got into that space to live a healthy life, and I don't want to be blaming people for unhealthy food when I'm producing nothing. So it is something that I'm not doing for anyone. I'm doing it for myself. So even if people don't believe it, they don't like it, it doesn't bother me, but I'll keep on doing it because it's working for me. If people will eat whatsoever, I have got no, as long as me, I'm safe. Those that want to join me, they are welcome. Those that don't believe, I will not struggle convincing people, crying that people don't believe this. That's not my problem because I've seen it works. and I've got first-hand experience, and it's very cost-saving, and it's very effective. So to me, it's working.
And actually, that's the right approach to farming. If you're going there because of someone convinced you, or like you saw a good trend that is happening and so you wanted to get on, then your motivation is going to wane out very quickly. Because one thing for sure with farming and with nature and with anything in general, you're bound to have problems, and that's when you have to dig deeper to your why. Why did I get into this farming system? So that completely makes sense. And the other important part I think we would like to talk about is approaching farming as a business. This is something you are also, vocal about. And I see we always struggle to find ways. How can we attract more youth into farming? And one of the things is we have to show them is like, can you make a living? Can you make money from farming? So for you, if someone wants to enter into organic farming and regenerative farming and they want to make money, what are some of the top things that they should consider, like in terms of practicality, to do for them to actually make a living from farming?
The first part for me, what really worked out well is the mindset. So when I started farming, I said, I'll make money from farming. And people that were in farming told me you are lying. But I did not believe in them. I said, no, that is you. So if you have failed, I cannot inherit your failure like it's a name. You understand? So if you failed, that is you. Me, I'm going to make money. And then what I said is, see, I have seen people that make money in farming, but I don't know how. If they have made it, it is also very clear that I can make it. Then I have to find out how. So what I did is, before I started farming, I learned business. So I associated myself with people that were running business. One of the person that really influenced me, that also influenced the name Radical Farmer, is Dumisani, the radical entrepreneur. So I started attending his conferences, and he liked me. Then he started sharing his content with me, the books that he read. So that really helped me, understand business. It also helped me understand the power of influence. It helped me, in terms of speaking, because you see, business is about talking. Okay? You should know how to talk, because on a daily basis, you are talking with clients, you're talking with the podcasters, you're talking to policemen, you're talking to the government, you're talking to workers. You're talking on a daily basis, you're dealing with people. So, and actually where I learned how to deal with human beings is from my father. My father was a great guy in terms of handling human beings. My mother was tough. My father was that cool guy who could, even if someone comes shouting upset, there's just a way he could, calm them and have issues resolved. I frequently have problems at the farm where, maybe one of the villagers is upset. They come with their leadership shouting, today you see it. I say, no, please, listen. We sit down and it is resolved. So business is not just about making money. It has got different aspects. So number one is the mindset. Then two, you need to know business itself. So I changed my friends. I started associating with people that are doing what I want to do. Okay? So, and how you get to connect with these people is you should offer free service to them. You identify what they don't have, and you offer that without expecting money from them. So one of the biggest challenges why rich people or people that are successful don't want to associate with people that have got nothing is because whenever we have an opportunity to these people, we want to get, not to give. But for me, an approach is I always give. Then that opens up the door. And when these people give back, it will even clear, they will even compensate you for what you gave them. But the first part, you should be willing to give. So I started associating with people that were doing that. Then doing business became very easy because farming, fuel, anything that you do is business. So the mindset, when the mindset changed, then it was easier for me to do farming. Like I'll give you an example. When you see me advertising the farm, here's ways that we make money at Farm7. So number one, I make money from content. Okay? So content really shapes how people see Farm7. Okay? So I capitalize on what we are good at, not what we are bad at. So if it is the papayas, I'll give an example. You must have seen papayas that we grow there. Those papayas, they were not planted to sell the fruits. We planted those papayas to make the farm look very green because they grow very fast. Okay? Then number two, we planted them to show people that actually you can grow something organically very quick. But that is not the main agenda. So we are working on the mindset to show people. Then when we come in now with the real stuff, because like let me give you an example. Before you want to get something, you first open the door. So now I figure out now, what can we use to unlock the hearts of these people and their minds? We said, no, let's looking at what we've been able to grow. And one thing that grows very fast is the papayas. We planted them the whole farm. So when people come, even if you're not making money from them, people say, wow, this is nice and everything. They look very green. But the main agenda is to open up their hearts so that we can plant the seed that we want to germinate. So number one, the notion that we wanted to clear is that you cannot do organic farming. There is no one on this continent who can tell me that organic farming is impossible. I'll tell them, tell me how this has been done. You go and bring all your scientists and come and measure if you find any chemical in these plants. And tell me how these plants have been able to produce in abundance as this. So that is the mindset part where you figure out the numbers. Now, where we make money is seedlings. When I advertise how much money you can make from a papaya. So I tell you, like I would show you how many fruits it has and how much I sell. Then now, the funny part about human beings is I don't know. When I show you that this is how much money you can make from papayas, and everyone now wants to grow what? Papayas. And it takes 1 year for a papaya fruit to produce, but it takes 5 months for a papaya seedling to be ready for sale. And the space that I need to sell to build to make the seedlings is smaller compared to the space that I need to grow the actual fruits. Now, I understand that information. I've got that information that the majority of people believe in planting and selling the actual fruits. But that's just one component of it. But one thing that I know is before they plant, they need me. Then now, for them to do organic farming, they need organic fertilizer. So I sell them the organic seedling. So they have to buy things from me before they have what they are seeing. You see what I mean? So I figured out that from a mindset point of view, so that as I push this agenda, I know that this is not what I'm pushing. But for me, what really works is this. Okay? So now, and an ordinary farmer doesn't sit down to think how they are going to make money from farming. I don't know if it makes sense. So now, when I plant a papaya, here are the 3 ways that I make money. Number one, I make money from, we do, tourism. People pay to come and visit Organic Farm7. Number two, we do education, where we teach people. So number one, there's tourism, then there's education. Then number three, we make money from the actual fruits. Then number four, we make money from seedlings. So from the same plant, I'm able to make money in 4 ways. Okay? And when you come and see the plant, you'd find that actually for tourism, I charge more than the cost of the fruit. And when you come at the farm, I'll make you taste the fruits, and you not just go, you want to buy the fruits because you love it. You see the logic. So now what am I saying? For the youths, if they'll get into farming, understanding these concepts, when you are growing, like let's say for example, like we grow herbs, I realized growing herbs, there's no safety, people don't know them, there's no fertilizer, there's no pesticides. Then I said, now how can I make money from these things? Apart from them helping with the aroma, repairing pests. So I made an essential oil machine where we extract oil from those plants and sell it at a point. Like for example, 10 meals we sell Zambian kwacha, that is 200 kwacha, that is like $20. $20 is how much? No, it's 400, like $10. Okay? 10 meals for $10. That's a decent amount of money. Okay? So it is the innovation part that is lacking. Then now I've realized that for farmers to grow, they need water. No wonder now we do the solar part. We do irrigation and also solar installation. But these are hands-on skills. Then the other unavoidable bonuses, this is when you have consultancy, you have trainings once a year, we have boot camps and all those things that happen. But the main thing, seedlings and also innovation where we solve farmers' problems. So once you've risen, it is easier to help those that are following you. And you've seen, like, for example, the internship where we just wanted 10 and we had more than 1,300 applicants in less than 4 days. But in a nutshell, from a business side, you really have to learn business from people that are doing business. Like using the same principles, I'm able to do business in any field and I'll still be able to succeed because the principles are the same.
So I'm wondering, like when you started the farm, did you have this all figured out, or some of the things like selling seedlings or like agritourism or like, processing some of this? Are these things were part of your blueprint, or these are some of the things you've had to adjust as time has gone?
Good question. You are asking very good questions. So the reality is the time that you begin learning farming is when you start farming. That is the reason why graduates cannot do farming, because they have not yet started. So for me, I have learned farming by doing farming. And here's one fact. No matter how smart you are, you cannot learn swimming from a book. You can read 1,000 books about swimming and immediately get you and throw you in the ocean. You will not swim. Okay? So I get better. I get better in farming every day as I do farming. So the best way to learn farming is actually by doing farming. So answering your question, how have I gotten to know all these things? These things I've gotten to know them by doing farming. So there are certain lessons you will never find in the books. Even if you are taught that lesson from the book, you will not learn. And I'm sure you've heard people that say, no, you haven't yet learned your lesson. So you will learn, but what you shouldn't, one thing you should control is you shouldn't be discouraged when you fail, because failure is part of success. So to me, failure is a test if I know or I don't know. Failure to me is a lesson on how things don't work. So I've learned how things don't work. Then I have to find a way to see how it works.
Yeah, you talked about like you had opened opportunities for people, to come and intern at your farm, and you received such an overwhelming response. What is the main goal of sort of giving this internship to a lot more people who are interested in farming?
I would say it's problems. I have figured out how to deal with my problems at the farm. But as I work with a number of farmers, I've realized that there are so many farmers that are struggling. I've had, I think, about 7 degree holders who studied agriculture. But the biggest challenge is how they fail to connect what they learned and what is happening on the ground. That is the biggest challenge, where, you hire this person, and by virtue of having a degree, they want to be paid a lot of money. But they don't know how to do what is going to generate money to pay them. Because the reality is, if I hire you and I'm paying you, I don't have to pay you my money. You have to work to make money for the company and for yourself. Then that becomes sustainable. Now, if I have to work somewhere else to make money for myself and for yourself, then you're not sustainable. So, and the challenge is our graduates. And this is like I have worked with so many farms and commercial farms. The graduates don't know how to run farms. And one of the reasons is very simple, is because they even themselves, they say, no, us, we just learn theories. It's where a school that is training them to be agricultural experts doesn't have a farm. Okay? So farming, like education, has just become like a business where people are learning theories on how to do things and they expect to be paid a lot. And then the other challenge is, you see, the schools, what they tell the students about what is on the ground is different from what is on the ground. Even just the mindset they're planting. Like you see, there are few commercial farmers that can afford to pay a degree holder. Okay? A lot of farms that need a workforce that can think, they cannot afford to pay, a degree holder. So they are trained to get into a place that is already developed. No wonder I'm saying somehow our system of education is not designed to solve African problems. They are designed to solve problems in Israel, in Europe, where things are automated and everything, you're just seated and things are happening. In Africa, when you get into a farming setup, you're starting a farm, you need to work hard. You need to, I don't know if you could see my hand. You see the blisters? Yeah, you can see. Okay? Now I'm glad they're still there. So this is just to show you that, you see, in an African setup, if you're developing a farm, you need to work hard. And this is how an average farm is. We don't have a lot of machinery. We don't have a lot of, technology. Things don't happen by talking. They happen by doing. Okay? So that mindset is not in them. So what they think is they come on the farm and they are going to be managers, managing what they don't know. Because me, even when I just look at plants from a distance, I can clearly tell that plant doesn't have water because I have that physical experience. When I'm hiring people to work with in terms of doing manual labor, I know the way someone holds a hoe, I am able to tell that guy is lazy, that guy is not hardworking. Okay? So now what am I saying? That internship program, why? Is because of those problems where you have a whole bunch of people that are trained academically, but they are not practical. You ask them even what they do at their place. There is nothing they are doing. So if they are doing nothing at their own farms, what are they going to do on my farm? So the opportunity which this internship is doing, one, we want to create a productive workforce on a country level where we train people who are academically qualified. We need academics where people are enlightened from a mental point of view, but also we need to balance it with practicality. How do you make those theories practical? How do you make those academic qualifications productive in terms of production? Okay, so when we get an intern who is from university, we bring them on the ground and train them so that they demonstrate and see for themselves whether they are able or not. So that as they go out, they are not raw. They know how to do something which can generate money for the farm and also for themselves. That is number one. Then number two, it is to show these guys that, you see, as a youth, you can be able to do something from scratch. You don't have to be crying for sponsorship. Like, I'm one person who is not dependent in terms of how to start things. I can start things from scratch with nothing. But the biggest thing that I have is my head. If you have a head, then you're good to start. Unless if you don't have one, but if we could borrow you. Then, you see, then number three is to equip them with practical skills, like what really happens on a farm, like irrigation, water, very critical, production, and also human resource management, and also the business aspect, and even just the maintenance of equipment and the up-to-date technologies which they can use to develop a farm. And having a whole setup in terms, exposing them to the realities of a farm. And the funny part is, when you look at Organic Farm7, you think it's all perfect. We have problems there. So, and when they are seeing it from a distance, it looks like there is no problem. But when they come on the ground, they realize that actually, as much as this looks beautiful from a distance, it also has problems. The point is, I'm not a perfectionist. And I don't believe that you always have everything that you need to get things started. You can get things started with the limited that you do what? That you have. So if in Zambia we had people that are pushing things, or even people that just understand things at a little level that I understand them, and they are putting in the effort, and they are developing what we are developing in different parts of the country, I believe Zambia would be on a very different level, and even Africa at large.
And something I also enjoyed from you is, I mean, your area is sort of, is it like in a dry area? And yeah, I see you helping farmers a lot in terms of either like creating a dam or making like helping them get water or like an irrigation system. So for farmers who are in sort of an arid and semi-arid areas, what do they need to know in terms of water, like having access to water? What are the basics that they should at least have in mind when they're starting the farm?
So my principle is, before you start farming, you need to work on your water. Very, very critical, because we have people that invest in structures before they invest in water. And with the unstable rainfall pattern that we've had, where rains are not very heavily dependent, people would plant things in rain season and expect the rains to continue, and then the rains leave their crops and they lose more than what they invested in. So they would have been injured emotionally and hate farming that is not good when it is them that are not good. So the first thing that you do is you work on your water. If you have got maybe a stream, you've got a running river, better for you. So now you have to figure out how to get that water from the field, from the river, or from the borehole, wherever the source is, to the field. So if you are drilling a borehole, you drill a borehole before you set up anything. Sometimes you find that you build a borehole on the aquifer, or maybe you build a toilet next to the aquifer. So the first thing that really determines where these other pieces are going to be is water. So you drill a borehole, and depending on the area that you are in, make sure that you drill a borehole, and you should understand how much water do you need for your farm. That also involves planning. Then once you've drilled a borehole, is to figure out how to get the borehole water out of there. Like with the scarcity of electricity, solar is the best. And actually, as we stand right now, solar is far much better than electricity, even in terms of bills and the amount of water that you get in a day. Because solar you'll be pumping all day long. Okay, and then like in Zambia, where the government has come in and reduced on the cost of, they have removed VAT on all solar things. So the cost has really gone down by maybe about 75%. So it is very, very, like in I think like 5 years ago, we used to buy 3,500 for a 250 watts panel, which we are getting at less than 1,000. Look at, now I'm talking about 75%, reduction. And then, but the funny part is people still think that solar is expensive because they see it like the way it was those days. Okay? So you really have to invest in water before you invest in anything on your farm. What has really transformed Organic Farm 7 is water. And you may be surprised to know that as we stand right now, we have 8 boreholes. And we've kept on adding, because you always need more water than what you are using.
Yeah, there's usually no cap in terms of like how many balls you can drill, or you can have as many balls as you want.
No. In Zambia there is no limitation at the moment, unless it's going to be there in the future. But there's WAMA, which is the Water Regulation Board. You get a permit, but it's not strict. Like I think in Botswana it's a little bit strict, but in Zambia, no. You can drill as many as you can afford, as long as you get the permit. So, yeah. So what really determines how many boreholes you can is the demand of water that you need. So the more you need, the more you drill. Yeah. So, but why you drill more? Sometimes you don't really necessarily need to drill more boreholes. Like for example, in my case, I have one borehole that is running a 10 HP pump, but before we had put a 2 HP pump. So you find that sometimes that very borehole you have has the capacity to accommodate a bigger pump. So a 2 HP was pumping up to 6,000 liters per hour, but the 10 HP pump that I put in is pumping 30,000 liters per hour from the same borehole. Okay? So meaning for you to determine whether you need to drill the next borehole, it is the issue of where you do a pump test for the existing borehole to see what is its optimum performance, what is its maximum capacity in terms of what is the biggest kind of a pump that you can handle. Maybe you may just need to upgrade the pump and not waste money in drilling another borehole. So you can only drill another borehole once you have exhausted the previous borehole. You're using it to its maximum.
I think solar nowadays is also becoming very popular, even in Kenya. There's this question my friend likes to ask. So let's say if you to be given, let's say $1 billion, and your goal is to invest in organic and regenerative farming, where would you put that money?
I would do two things. Number one, I would set up a commercial organic farm. Since I've been doing this for years and I figured out how it should be done on small scale and even on large scale. So I would set up an organic farm, then set up a facility that can accommodate more interns. Okay? So now, with that farm that is operating organically, I don't have to explain about organic farming. Okay? Then when I get the best students from the best schools and bring them on this farm to produce and make money from this farm, then they become the voices. I'll give an example. If you have seen the issues of scholarship, great nations advertise scholarship. What do? They get big brains. And they know that these people are going to be the leaders of, companies. If you ask someone who was sponsored by America to get a PhD or whatsoever in that country, whenever they become in leadership, they're going to favor that country, which they think gave them an opportunity. Okay? So now what would I do is I would look at which people are influential in the industry, especially with the students. So when we influence the system of education, then it becomes inevitable that they're going to follow suit. So meaning we can make our voice audible enough. Like for example, I work with the UN in terms of promoting, I'm SDG number 13 for Sustainable Development Goals for climate change. Why the UN gave me that role is because of what we are doing at Organic Farm7. Okay? Now, that's a small thing, but it's still growing. But imagine if it was big. So meaning we would push people to innovate in an organic way. So the reason why we don't have many people practicing it is because we have not come on a spotlight that much. So as I build Organic Farm7, I'm doing things, I'm building and surviving. So if I have all the resources at my disposal, and I say, okay, here's what I need. So my focus now will not be survival. It will be focusing on developing and showcasing. So meaning I'll divert all my energies into proving that point and just getting that done. But now when I have to push, sustain myself, sustain the people, the pace at which you move at is a little bit slower.
Yeah, okay. So it's about building the capacity of people who want to be involved in the organic space.
Because at the end of the day, for me, what I'm doing is not about me. It's about people. And I'm not looking at, what am I going to get out of it? I'm looking at what am I going to leave at the end of the day. I'm looking at how am I going to help people? How am I going to impact lives? How am I going to influence positive change in terms of policy, in terms of, innovation? what agenda am I pushing, and how will this agenda outlive me? That is what I'm looking at. I'm not just looking at, okay, what am I going to get out of this? And I'm also looking at what will be the repercussions of my contribution to what I'm doing.
That is definitely an approach. And as you mentioned, we need such an approach in terms of impacting more knowledge to people, and especially where a lot more people are coming out with just knowledge and not practical. So giving them an avenue for them to actually experience this will be, I think, an accelerator towards that push. Something interesting is that I actually met you. I saw one of your videos on Facebook, and it just reminded me like the power of social media. So like from your point of view and from your perspective, because there's always discussions on what is the right way to use social media to just promote yourself or the business you're doing. But for people who are in the farming space and want to use social media to just promote of themselves and what they are doing, what is the right way, and what are some of the things have worked for you using social media?
Okay, so yeah, there's a selfish way of doing things, not just social media, but even, I can be doing something, even I can use organic farming just for myself. But when you talk about the issues of how we can positively utilize social media, is to publish content that you think through before you publish it. You look at what will be the consequences of what I'm doing positively and also negatively. Okay, like for example, when I'm posting something, what is the motive? That is what really determines whether I post that thing or not. So, like for example, when I'm posting about comfrey as a fertilizer, I'm looking at it that, you see, when someone plants this, it will be there forever, and they will just be harvesting. And I'm looking at someone who doesn't have money, someone who doesn't want to be spending on fertilizer, someone who doesn't want to destroy the soil. So it is contributing, publishing content that genuinely brings about, development. There are people that intentionally publish content for distraction. They have an agenda, which they know very well that this thing is not good, but they keep on going just because it's going to draw numbers. Okay? So, but as in for me, I'm looking at who am I going to help out there? I don't know. I didn't know that I'm going to meet you. But, we have met because of the content that we do that we share. And I've been able to do quite a number of business with people that I don't know through social media. So for me too, social media is a very powerful tool that we can, use for good and also for bad, but you would rather choose to do the good.
There are so many people who look up to you or who have followed your journey so far in terms of what you've been able to accomplish from starting Organic Farm7 to what you're doing there. And there are those who want to get also into the business of farming. What is usually your message?
My message is, you need to get the realities right. Because sometimes, actually many times, when we talk about farming, what we see from a distance is actually far from reality. And many of us, we tend to, not have the patience to sit down and ask how. Like, I'll give you an example. When someone has seen me growing papayas, they will come and visit the farm without asking me any question, and straight away they go and start growing papayas. Because they think it is just as it appears. So any business has got a process. Like, I started doing organic farming now, it's close to 10 years. But when you see how I do it, when you come to learn from me, I'll tell you the process. And you cannot become like me today. You have to go through the process. The way you do your podcast, I say, no, I like the way you do your podcast. But it has taken you not 1 year or 2 years, but it has taken you time to get to that level. Okay? Now, what am I saying? Those that want to do farming. Number one, if you want to make money from farming, you need to understand business. Okay? And you need to know how to, market and also how to sell. You need how to make money from farming. Because if you don't know how to make money from farming, then you'll be using money from another source. Okay? So, and this is one thing that many people actually, don't put into consideration. They think you just need money. When I have money, I'm going to succeed in farming. I know so many people that have got a lot of money, but money is not a qualification to succeed in farming. I say farming has got a big mouth. It can swallow all your money and you can lose all of it, and you have no one to blame. So be patient, start small. Once you have started small and you have managed to make money from that small. So why am I emphasizing on the point of money? Farming operates on money. On a daily basis, a farm consumes money. Okay? But before you figure out how to make money, because mostly the people that run farms, they run them from their pockets. Someone is working somewhere else and they pay their workers from their pocket, they buy equipment from their pocket, and they think it's farming. So the point is, learn how to make money from farming on small scale, then come up with a model. Like Organic Farm7, what we do there is a model. It's not just farming. We've come up with a model which works for us. But if you don't know the model, I can give you all the information. Go and do it. And you feel, no wonder you have seen, I don't hide what we do. If you can figure out how we do things, go and do it. Okay? So it's not like it's a secret way, but there's a formula. When someone really wants to learn farming, you really have to get to a point where you follow the process, but the business side is very critical. Why am I mentioning the business side? I'll give an example. The milling companies, if you have them in Kenya also, they understand business very well. They will allow you to do the dirty work, the risky work, you make losses, but you sell them what you have produced, and they will only pay you for what you have produced, and they will make profit from what you've produced. The seed companies, they understand business. They know that these farmers, they will pay us before they plant. So having a business mindset, and if you don't know how to do business, engage someone who knows how to produce, who knows how to make money and do the production. But if you have a whole set of skills like I'm privileged to have, you are better off. But these are skills that I was not born with. I've actually learned them one step after the other. And the more you practice them, the more you become good at them.
Yeah, absolutely. These things take time. And I think that's a very important message that people around our age don't take it a little bit seriously because they want things a little bit faster. But unfortunately, nature, you cannot rush it. You have to go with how it goes. So I think that's a very important point. I was wondering, like, in terms of legacy, do you ever think about what you want people to remember you for?
I would be very happy to be remembered as a person who brought about, a revolution in the agriculture sector, and brought about the change that has made a common people have access to healthy and diversified nutrition that is within their reach. We supply seedlings at an affordable price so that an average person can have access to a variety of fruits, raspberries, the fruits that we thought they are only for white people and rich people. These food should be available to anyone. That is something that I would want to be. When someone is eating a fruit, they should remember me. When someone is eating tasty food, they should think about me. That is one thing that I'm very, very grateful for.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think so far you're doing that in terms of the impact you're having in Zambia. And at least when I follow on social media, I can see a lot of positive and inspiring messages that people have towards you. So in a large extent, you are doing that to a lot of people.
You can find me on Facebook and YouTube. Just search for Radical Farmer Zambia. You will organically find me online. And you can follow, and we don't charge. It's free of charge. We've paid the bills. And we're very grateful, to get to see how we can help each other. If there's anything that you think I can help in when you follow us, Farm7 is a place, and everyone is free to visit, to learn and see for yourself what we've been talking about. But I'll be very grateful for you if you'd come to Zambia so that the things that we are talking about, we'll not just talk about them, that we'll get on the ground and have, evidence backing our words.